Port of Call is a story-driven interactive adventure game where you are a nameless crew member who's been brought on to Captain Ferryman's ship with the goal of taking all of the passengers' tickets. You find out that the passengers are spirits, and there's some backstory revolving around the deaths of the crew members and someone named Marcus. Sadly, the story fails to get you interested throughout its 20-minute length. What you have here is a complex narrative structure trying to cover its context and a slow to fast pacing, while trying to get you engaged without giving you a reason to care. The dialogue between you and these pass-away crewmates is pretty unconvincing, with stereotypes boring you to death about how they died and whether or not you are dead, and mentioning Marcus out of the blue without conviction. What adds more salt to the wound is that the game allows player choices, but zero impact from them. Even the multiple endings fail to identify themselves, instead leading to the same lazy outcome. Lastly, the story doesn't make much sense out of itself. While you are learning about how the crew died and whether or not you have anything to do with it, the story ends up being more questions than answers, but then again, you aren't gonna care anyway. The gameplay is practically a walking simulator, with the ability to examine certain objects in the environment and spew cliche sentences for some reason. The only other activities are collect certain objects and pick up certain objects. Level design involves a lot of backtracking and fetch quests to advance the painfully boring story. Presentation-wise, Port of Call has a nice art style that's not been executed well in-game. There are flash effects to hurt your eyes, objects falling to the floor, and no sound effects to support the world that the game has already failed to involve you in. There is a soundtrack that you will hear now and then, but it is nothing to get excited about. Just because the game is free doesn't mean it has to be this lifeless, and especially for a story-driven experience, Port of Call is disappointing.